Hey everybody, so tonight we are going to learn how to create a Ruby executable. So we all know that if you've done any programming in Ruby, you can make a Ruby file, give it the .rb extension, and then use the Ruby command to execute that file, which is really convenient. But what would be even more convenient is if we could just have a real executable that we don't have to type Ruby, we don't have to type .rb or a / or anything, and we can just type that command anywhere in our file system and have it execute a Ruby program. That would be pretty cool. That's basically what the Rails command does, or if you type IRB, you go right into the Ruby REPL. If you type gem, you can do stuff with Ruby gems anywhere in your file system as long as it's in your path. So we're going to learn how to do that now. So let me open up my iTerm. And here we are in our home directory. And I'm going to start off by making this Ruby program and the associated binary. So we're going to say make directory, and we'll give it the .p flag because we're going to make some intermediate directories as well. So we'll call this favorite color, because this Ruby program is going to tell us what our favorite color is. I know it doesn't sound that exciting, but the good news is you can take what we're going to be teaching right now, and you can make this program literally do whatever you want, and you'll know how to make it an executable. So I am going to create two intermediate folders, or actually these are going to be the end folders here. I'm going to put them in curly braces. So one will be called lib. That'll be our library folder. That'll house our Ruby code that has all the logic for the program. The other one's our bin folder that will house the binary or the executable. That's what we're going to be calling that will require what's in the lib folder and, of course, execute the program. All right, so let's touch a few files here. So we're going to touch favorite color, lib, and we're just going to call this favorite color.rb. That'll house the favorite color class. And then favorite color, bin for our binary, and we're just going to call this fav color.rb. Eventually, we're going to take that .rb off, but for now we'll leave it on so we can at least execute it with the Ruby command to start off with. Hit enter, and if I type that all correctly, we should have everything there. So there it is, my favorite color directory is there, and I'm going to do something kind of cool. Maybe you use Vim, maybe you don't, but I'm going to be using Vim. So if you don't know a lot about Vim, you'll learn a few cool hints and tips of how to use Vim. So I'm going to Vim into a directory, actually. So not a file, I'm going to Vim into favorite color, and I'm here in the Explorer mode of Vim. So I can hit like S to sort by different things. So I'm sorting by the time, sorting by the size, sorting by the extension, the name. Of course, it doesn't really matter. And if you know any Vim shortcuts, J goes down, K goes up. So I am going to start off by going into the lib directory here. I'm just going to hit enter. And here we are in the lib directory. I could hit the dash to go back, hit dash again. So here I am, favorite color, oops, hit enter there. Here I am in my favorite color directory, and I hit enter on lib, and there I am. That's just kind of showing you how the Explorer works. So I'll hit enter again, and now I've vimmed into the favorite color.rb. We're gonna create our favorite color class, and I always forget to hit the I key that starts insert. So I always end up typing class without the C by accident. Anyway, class favorite color, perfect. And then we will define our initialize method, and we're just going to give it a color to initialize it. So the color is going to equal the color we give it. Now, your class can do whatever you want. You don't have to follow this. I'm just typing an extremely simple program that prints out our favorite color to the console. So I'm going to find another method. It's going to be called declaration. The declaration is going to be what we're going to declare. So it's going to say, my favorite color is, of course, it's going to be the color that we give it. And then one more definition, one more method, we're going to call this one declare. So the declaration is the declaration, declares the declaration. So we're just going to say puts declaration. Declaration. Okay, perfect. All right, if I spelled everything correctly, I think I did. Perfect. All right, so we can hit JJ. I have a little shortcut set up in my Vim RC file, so I can hit JJ. I can go into the command mode. If you don't use Vim, don't worry about it. Anyway, I'm going to hit W to save it. I'm going to hit colon again, exclamation point. and I'm going to see if this actually works. So first off, I'm going to say pwd, because where in the world am I? I am in, okay, my home directory. So I'm going to hit, let's see here. No, I'm not going to do that. So we are going to go back to the Explorer, and I'm going to go back up one, and now I'm going to go into my binary directory, favecolor.rb. I'm going to give it a few lines here because I'm going to add something at the top, which is going to be called a hash bang, but we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. So to start off, we're going to say require. Now I could say require relative, but I'm going to do something even more fancy here. That's really pointless. I could just say require relative, and I could just say ... favorite color.rb, but I'm going to say file.expand path because we're going to do this. You see this a lot of times in gems, like Ruby on Rails and all of its various modules. You'll see it require going kind of the old-fashioned way. It's like the old-fashioned way to do require relative. I think it is at least. And I'm going to say ... /lib / favorite color.rb. That's going to be basically the relative directory to whatever I put as the second argument, which I'm going to do this dir argument, meaning the directory. So since I'm referencing the current directory, this first argument is going to be relative to the directory. So you go back a directory to the root directory, then you go into lib and the favorite color. If I did the file here, if I do that, you'll see that oftentimes, then you would actually have to do 2 /. So like ... /. So that's kind of interesting the way it works there. Perfect. All right. So that's that. We're going to require the favorite color.rb file. Then I'm going to say that the color equals argv0. Now, what in the world is that? Argv are the arguments that you put after an executable. So if I was to execute this file and put, blue afterwards, then that's going to go into an array called argv. So I want to take the first input from that array and basically say that's the color. Now, if I don't put anything, it's nil. I'm going to say that my favorite color is teal. So I'm just going to say the color is teal. All right. Now we're actually going to reference our file that we required. So favorite color.new, and we'll pass in the color to initialize it. Because if you remember, that's all it did. It just took a color, said this is the color, and then the declaration says my favorite color is whatever the color is. So we'll say to declare. That's what prints it to the screen. All right, cool. All right, let's get out of here. So I'm just going to say quit, and let's go into our favorite color directory. So we got those two. Let's go into our binary directory. Here it is. All right. So let's see if we can execute this here. So Ruby favecolor.rb, cross your fingers. Let's see if it works. And of course, it did not. So as you can see, reading the errors is always a good idea. Did you mean file? I absolutely meant file. So how did you know? All right, we're going to go over here. We're going to hit W a few times. Okay, and we're going to say CW, change the word, and it's going to be all caps. Ah, that's why it turned purple. Perfect. Let's try this again. Ruby favecolor.rb. My favorite color is teal. Hey, look, it worked. Now let's put blue. My favorite color is blue. Looks like this is working really well. If I hit red and then blue, the blue shouldn't make any difference because we're only grabbing the first input. So it's going to be red. Awesome. That works great. So let's modify this fave color just a little bit because I want to execute this as a true executable. I don't want to type Ruby here. That's too much to type. I want to just do an executable. So you can do executables by doing ./ and then fave color. So I want to execute what's in the file. I'll do this. Let's see what it says here. Ah, permission denied. That means I do not have permission to execute this file. What in the world? Well, I'm like the root user. I'm the owner of this computer. I'm the administrator, basically. Why do I not have permission? Well, to see permissions, it's kind of cool. You can say list with an L flag, and that'll just list out all of the files, just giving the permissions. It'll give the owner, the person that created it, the group, which in my case is staff, the date. Well, actually 129, so I think that's the file size, then the date and the name. So those first RWs, RR, -- all that, those are actually the permissions. So if you're not familiar with permissions, that's what file permissions look like. And it's actually really, really simple. So I'm going to hit LL as the exact same thing. LL, you can always see them there. So hit LL, the first dash right there at the very beginning, that just means it's a file. That could be a D, meaning it's a directory we're talking about, or it could be actually be an L, meaning it's linked to a file or possibly even a directory, I'm not sure. Then you have RW dash, those first three characters, RW dash, are the permissions for the owner. That's me, which is Javon 1904. The next three characters, which is R dash dash, those are the permissions for the group. And that's, in this case, is called staff. And then the last three characters, R dash dash, those are the permissions for everyone else. So it's the owner, the group, and others. So the creator, the owner, or actually it's the user. So you got you, and you've got the next three, which is the group, that's G, and the last three others, that's O. So you've got U, G, and O. So how do we change the permissions? Well, there's a command we can do called chmod or chmod. I don't know, I call it chmod. I'm not sure how you would normally pronounce that command, but you can do something kind of cool. So we've got the user has RW dash. That means the user, me, can read this file. I can write to the file, whereas other people cannot write to the file, but I cannot execute the file. If I could, there'd be an X there, it'd be RWX. So I want to say the user is going to add the X permission. Oh, but it's going to add X permission to this file, of course. So what's the file called? faithcolor.rb. All right, now let's do LL again, and look, it changed. So now it's RWX. There's another way you could do this. I want to change the permissions, and I'm just going to hit 777 faithcolor.rb. Now that's 777. That's another way you can create permissions, which is much faster. You don't have to create each permission one after the other. You can just do all their permissions all at once with three numbers. How does that work here? Well, first of all, this added all permissions to everybody. That's because the first number, the first 7 is for the user, the second 7 is for the group, the third 7, the third number is for all others. So what the 7 means is that you're giving all permissions to each of those entities there. Each permission has a number assigned to it. The R, the read, is 4. The W, the write, is 2, and the X for execute is 1. So you give it a number based on those individual numbers. 7 is 1 plus 2 plus 4. So 3 plus 4 is 7. Therefore, 7, the first 7, gives all permissions to the user. The next number gives all permissions to the group, and the next number, 7, gives all permissions to all others. So if I was to say chmod, I like saying that, chmod 000 faithcolor.rb and LL again, no one has any permissions. That's because 0 basically blanks all the permissions. If I was to say chmod, and let's change it to 111, I think everyone should have, what do you think? Executable permissions, right? Let's see if that's true. Yep, we can all execute it. But for this file, I just want to be able to execute it myself. I don't really care about other people. I'm going to give them those read permissions. So it's going to go back to normal. RWX, R dash dash, R dash dash. All right, so that's all about permissions there. Now that I've done that, I should be able to execute this file. So if I hit /faithcolor, we've got a syntax error. What in the world? All right, why in the world was I able to execute it with Ruby? My favorite color is teal. My favorite color is blue. But if I hit /, now I have a syntax error. Did my syntax change? What's going on? Well, the problem is that when I run this executable with /, the shell, or my iterm here, I'm using ZSH or ZSH, however you say that, for Z shell, it doesn't know how to interpret this. It doesn't even know that it's Ruby because we're not giving it the Ruby interpreter. So the shell doesn't know to use the Ruby interpreter to interpret the .rb file. So what do we do in this case? We need to vim back into it, and we need to add our line up here that I actually was planning to add. That's why I left a space for it. We're gonna add #bang. There it is. So it's #bang. So you got a hashtag bang. All right, there we go. #bang. And we're gonna say user bin env. Now what in the world am I doing? I'm gonna specify the interpreter that the shell should use to execute this file. And the interpreter it's going to use is going to be Ruby. So why do I do user bin env? Well, if you go into the user bin, there's an env command that lists all your environment variables, among which is your path, which is the list of all the paths that you can execute files from. So by specifying user bin env, that's going to go through your path, and it's going to find the first Ruby interpreter that you have in your path. I could just, in my case, because of my computer's configurations, I could just say hashbang Ruby or some other things, but this is the best way, best practice. If you see, different websites like Heroku will encourage you to do your hashbang like this for Ruby files. So this is going to basically tell the interpreter, tell the shell to use Ruby as the interpreter. All right, so I'm going to save that up, and we'll quit out of there. And now let us try it. Look at that. The shell knew to use Ruby because we added the hashbang. Now let's pretty this up a little bit. So instead of that, we're just going to say fave color. I like that a little better. Now it looks more like an executable, so we're just going to take that off, and boom. There's one problem though, and you know what it is. If I hit fave color, it's saying command not found. Wait, I thought it was an executable. It's an executable, but it's not a command. It's not a command like if I hit like IRB, that's a command. I'm in the IRB REPL. But if I hit fave color, it's an executable, but I still have to reference it through the /. So how are we going to fix that? We are going to put this executable in our path. So again, what's the path? I can echo path. And you can see that for my computer, yours is going to look totally different based on all the kinds of things you use. But in my computer, it's going to give me all my bin directories. So if you look towards the end of the path, you can see all these bins in here. So we need to add. We could go into our ZSHRC. And we could export some things to our path. But I'm not going to do that. That is totally a valid option if you want to do that. But what we're going to do is we're just going to link this executable to a directory that's already in our path. And that directory is going to be user local bin. And so in here, I've got all my user local bins. That's where Rails is. That's where Rake is. A couple other things. You've got Node. You've got all kinds of stuff, NPM, all kinds of cool stuff like that are here in user local bin. So I don't want to move the directory in here. I want to keep it where it is, but I want to link it to here. It's like kind of like putting an icon on your desktop. I guess back when I used like Windows and there were little icons of all my programs on my desktop, they were icons. They were, what are they called? Shortcuts, I guess. They weren't the actual program, but they were a link to it. So we are going to link, and I believe can type this command from anywhere in the computer. It doesn't matter because I have to specify the full path. I'm going to give it an S, so it's a certain type of link called a symlink, I believe. Okay, so we are going to specify, first of all, the path to the source. So that is going to be, I'm actually going to give the tilde here. It's for my home directory, and of course it's going to be favorite color. And then it's going to be the bin directory, and then it's just called fave color, I believe, now, without the RB. And now I'm going to give the full path to where I want to link it to. So user, local, bin, and I'm just going to give it the name, fave color. And of course, the permission's denied because I am kind of below my home directory. So down here, looks like I've got to use sudo for some things. Type my password in here. And did not complain. Let's list it out and see what we got. All right, and do you see it in there somewhere? A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Fave color right there. All right, cool. So let's give it a shot. Fave, color, just as a executable, as a command. And we have a problem. And let's read and see what this is. Cannot load such file. User local lib favorite color dot rb. Okay, so we've got a problem when we're doing the require relative there. So let's go fix that. Looks like I was a little too overzealous trying to use that require.expand path. That is the wrong one. Let's go into my bin. All right, what do we got here? So when I go to the file, I cannot load that for some reason. That's kind of interesting. Well, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna say directory instead. And let's see if it likes that now. There we go. Maybe it'll like that. I'm gonna take out one of these. I'm just gonna see if that works. So fave color. Hey, look, that worked. I'm not exactly sure why it didn't like the file. Maybe something with the linking and it wants you to do the directory. So we're always learning something new. Anyway, here I am in my home directory, and I just hit fave color, not that one. I'm gonna hit fave color, and I'm gonna say orange. Boom, my favorite color is orange. Okay, so that is it. That's how you make a Ruby executable. So let's just review here. I'm gonna vim into my favorite color directory. We had a bin and a lib. The lib housed just our Ruby class. All I did was add some logic here, printed something to the screen, pretty simple. Then we added our bin folder with our fave color executable. We have to add the hash bang. Again, for Ruby, you want to do user bin env Ruby, and then we're going to require it. I could have just done this, by the way. I could have just said require relative, and I could have just said ... lib favorite color, just like the other one. Favorite color.rb. All right, and I'll delete that. Let's see if it still works. Let's just give it a shot. Look, there, it still works. My favorite color is red. Boom. All right, so you add that hash bang. You're gonna change the permissions with the chmod, or the chmod, as I like to call it. And you can give it the executable permissions, and then you're gonna use that ln, which is the link command, and you're going to specify the full path to the file, the source file, and then the full path to where you wanna link it to. And again, that's in my user local bin directory. So here I am in here. If I do ll, maybe scroll up a little bit, we're going to see this file here. All right, okay. It's always hiding on me. You probably already saw it. Let's see here. Make this a little bigger. For some reason, I'm just not seeing this thing. There it is. Okay. All right. So we see this is the L, the link. We've got read, write, and execute permissions for the root user, which is me. Here's when it was created. It's 44 bytes. And here you can see where it's linked to. So it's going to users, that's me, favorite color, bin, fave color. So that's kind of cool. You can just see where they're all linked to. So that's pretty much it. So go ahead and change up your lib directory, your source code. You can write a full-fledged Ruby program. Basically, this is how you can write a Ruby CLI, a command line interface application. Do all kinds of cool stuff with those argvs, just capital ARGV, and it's an array of all the arguments you give to it, and you can have a lot of fun. And there's even some different frameworks or some gems that you can download to help you as you make Ruby CLIs. But hopefully this at least helped you get over the hump in making a Ruby executable.